President Trump causing some controversy after posting multiple AI-generated videos this week. And one was a deep fake of himself touting a fake medical breakthrough called MedBeds. It's a conspiracy that has roots in the QAnon movement, and it falsely claims the existence of cure-all medical beds and also claims that they are being kept from the public. Now, the president eventually did take that video down, but others showed Democratic leaders Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer mocking them over the government shutdown. In one, he had Jeffries wearing a sombrero and mustache, which Jeffries has called racist. And here to help us understand the dangers of AI is Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Virginia Tech, Dylan Losey. Dylan, thanks for being with us to talk about all these videos that certainly catch a lot of attention. When you have the president of the United States pushing these AI-generated videos, what kind of concerns does that raise about the spread of misinformation, of disinformation? What kind of wider impacts could this have?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tricky topic because as someone who researches AI on a daily basis, we don't fully understand what makes an AI system or generative model safe or unsafe. For example, when the president or another important person presents this sort of stuff or uses these different AI models, how is that going to impact the people around him, maybe influence their decisions, et cetera? It's unclear, right? We don't have a clear mathematical understanding of this issue. And it's an active research topic that universities around the United States are looking at to try better to understand.
Yeah.
What I can say, pretty definitively is that when we make these sort of systems, these sort of recommendation AI systems, I'm thinking here like search recommendation, et cetera, it's good for them to be transparent so that whoever the user is or the consumer is knows either that they're getting something from a generative model or that they are like what they should expect from that generative model.
Sure. And some of these videos that we're seeing are clearly fake, but still very eye-raising. Eyebrow raising. Dylan, I also want to ask you this. In a departure from his first term, some of the biggest tech industry leaders have instead embraced President Trump in his second term. Can you talk about what kind of influence that technology has on governmental power? What are the potential dangers that come with that kind of dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, it's this sort of technology is becoming more and more pervasive in Americans' everyday lives. The way we consume social media or other content, the recommendation algorithms that we use, our purchasing habits can all be influenced by these different types of artificial intelligence or AI agents. Because we don't fully understand the ways that they influence people, or even mathematically what makes one of these agents safe, it can certainly be harmful. Maybe changing the way people act in ways that we didn't really anticipate or plan for. So that kind of lack of knowledge is concerning to me because as a researcher and scientist, I want to make sure that these systems we're developing to be used by whoever they're used by are going to have the intended effects, they're going to follow the laws and kind of behave in a way that we anticipate and can understand.
Absolutely, with plenty of ramifications. Dylan Losey, thank you very much for joining us.